you. You shake your head and you look at the human female that's just standing there very seductively, and you say, "You cannot fornicate." She kind of puts on a very pouty face and says, "Well, that's too bad. There could be ways we could look into that.
I could
I
be a
guess."
real boy.
She looks down and kind of sad and looks at the other form, the elf, and says, "Maybe some other time." And he kind of looks back at her and says, "Maybe. You have fun with your little play toy, Keloth." Keloth looks at you, mandibles clacking together, says, "Are you ready?"
Yep.
He continues down the path through the gate, and you're continuing along with him. Right before you pass through the third gate, both forms are going back to both sides of the gate. Human female, elf male, and they transform back to their natural states. And you just see horns protrude from their heads. They are still very gorgeous in their own ways. And as you're walking through the gate, both of them are just kind of like lazily waving their fingers at you, like, bye.
Reaps.
Then I love you.
Is he just immune to being charmed?
He rolled good enough. He beat the DC. The DC was 15.
I mean, you would assume, since he's a machine.
He still has to make he's not full machine. He still has like an organic material in him. He still has a life force.
I have like a magical soul. I'm immune to being like put to sleep. Like I can't be put to sleep. I could be knocked out, I think.
Crimson.
But I can't magically be put to sleep.
And yes, I did mean to say that.
I know you did. And it threw me off again because you don't normally say something like that.
I'm full of fucking surprises occasionally.
So you walk towards the main gate of this heavily fortified fortress. And it's the inner beings of the fort, meaning walls, rooms. It's no longer experiencing the elements of the outside. And you see all types of demons, fiends crawling about, sludging about, doing random tasks. Occasionally you see different demons and fiends tearing another lemur apart because they did not perform their task properly, or just for the mere fact that they just felt like ripping something apart. And as you're going through the inner walls of this fortress, you finally get to the inner chamber, the inner throne room of this fortress. And you see two 15-foot tall Glaberizzles standing there guard. And they see Keloth, and they bow their heads towards him and open up the doors. And you enter, and the very first thing that you see is way across the room, sitting on top of a throne-like chair, is a very powerful looking being. Go ahead and make a perception check.
Oh boy. Oh, nice actually. 20. 30, 20.
You see the figure sitting on top of this throne chair. And mind you, if he was standing, he'd be standing about 12 feet tall. But to the left of this figure is another creature. And to the right of this figure is another creature of different size and proportion. And all three figures that are sitting or standing in this throne room are just staring at you and Kelos. The figure that's sitting on the throne is just nonchalantly, like, kicked back lazily. It's just sitting there, arm on the armrest, kind of resting its head as you approach, judging you. And you get about halfway through the throne room, and Keloth, through everybody's mind, so everybody can understand, communicates, "This is Bel, Lord of the First, Warlord of Avernus, General of the Third Command, the Pit Fiend. Bow before him now."
I'll do a small bow, and I'll say, "Nice to meet you."
You bow your head and you say, "Nice to meet you," and you look back up at him.
Basically,
Bel opens his mouth in common. It just erupts from his mouth, so the entire auditorium of this throne room can be heard, and it's also probably enhanced also due to the throne room and how it's been magnificently but also horrifically designed. But he says, "Greetings, mortal, to my humble abode. I wanted to personally congratulate you for defeating my champion. That was doing my bidding to make your realm mine. Obviously, he was not fit to be my champion, mainly due to your quick calculations and obvious prowess. You defeated him."
I liked his armor.
"Did you realize it was connected to me?"
No, not many symbols or books are really talk about you.
Make a perception check.
17.
You,
17.
Shit, he succeeded.
this is something entirely different, Crimson. You notice immediately after he says, or you say that there are two banners to the right of his throne chair, and then behind the towering figures of the Marilith six-armed snake-like figure, and the other just straight up imposing figure of 12 feet tall. The two banners of a longsword that is just engulfed and surrounded by green flame.
That symbol looks familiar, though.
So that was your one flaw, being ignorant.
I'm just blind.
We need to get those eyes worked on, man.
Just put a
Gotta give me artificial glasses, bro. Like, fucking.
That's not the artificer.
It's laser eyes.
Oh, fuck.
You have adorned my armor. Do you want to become one of my followers?
Do I get to keep the armor?
Does that increase your powers your strengths, your defenses.
I don't know. I just really like this armor. It's really nice.
Oh my fucking god.
Whoever crafted it is really good at their job.
Somebody's gonna die.
And his eyes just glare into you and say, I'm done with the voice. I'm sorry. But he just bellows in laughter and says, I like your honesty. You are more than welcome to keep it as long as you do my will, do my bidding. Never betray my trust.
All right.
Son of a bitch.
Just instant. I'm gonna make a deal with the devil.
He says, also, I promise you, as long as you do my bidding, I will be there to help you in times of need. I will give you gifts. Is there anything that you desire now? And he kind of looks at you, and he looks at the trident that's on your back, still kind of gooping with lemur flesh.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
And he kind of looks at it and cocks his head to the other side, and he says, that is not a usual weapon that my followers use. And he kind of leans forward and he commands a lemur from the side of the room that was just standing there waiting for order to be bellowed. He points at it and he points at you. Give it to me. And the lemur sledges towards you with a quickened pace than you saw before. And he holds out its hands, its mucky hands, waiting for you to put your trident into its hands.
All right. I'll put my trident into his hands.
And it almost sinks into its hands halfway through, and you just see its quote unquote fingers claw its way around it, turn and pulls it towards itself, turns towards Bell, and goes forward in a very quickened pace and lowers its head and raises his arms with both hands open so Bell can retrieve the trident. This would be a good toothpick. But then all of a sudden he puts his palm upright towards the sky. And the trident all of a sudden transforms into a longsword. And he says, this should do nicely for you. And he puts it back in the lemur's hands. And the lemur comes back towards you again in the same manner. And so you can retrieve the longsword.
All right. I'll retrieve the longsword. I'll look at Bell. I'll do a little bow again and say thank you.
It is my pleasure to gain another follower, seeing as how I have recently lost one. We shall be keeping an eye on you. Do not disappoint me. There are many things we can do here to enjoy your punishments. Do you understand?
Yes.
Bell looks towards Keloth and he nods his head. With that, with his 3 insectoid fingers, he clicks his 3 clawed fingers and you are magically transported back to your room.